FIFA under fire again. Argentina match sparks World Cup controversy. There is a detail buried in the second half of Egypt versus Argentina that most of the highlight packages won't show you. In the build-up to Argentina's comeback, Egypt were convinced they had earned a penalty. They argued for it. Their head coach argued for it. AR, the system built precisely to catch exactly those moments, did not intervene. The referee waved it off. Egypt were furious, and they were alone in that fury because nothing was coming. Now hold that image for a moment, because it sits directly beside another moment from the same match, earlier in the same game. In the first half, with Egypt leading Argentina 1-0, Mostafa Ziko scored. A brilliant move, a close-range finish and a celebration, shirt off, arms out, that lit up Atlanta Stadium. Then VAR did intervene. The goal was ruled out for a foul in the build-up, a decision so marginal that live commentators from multiple broadcast networks questioned whether it even fell within the technology's permitted scope. Egypt's joy turned to shock. The scoreline stayed 1-0, VAR deployed, goal wiped out. Later penalty shout, VAR silent, same system, same referee, same match. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a documented sequence of events. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. On the night of July 7th, 2026, Egypt played the most important football match in their country's modern history. Atlanta Stadium was packed. This was Egypt's first ever World Cup knockout stage appearance, a moment their supporters had waited decades for. And they were not there to make up the numbers. Mohamed Salah, 35 years old, in arguably the most sustained form of his career, was leading a side that genuinely believed it could eliminate the defending world champions. For most of the match, they were right to believe it. Ziko found the net legitimately not long after his disallowed goal to make it 2-0. The defending champions were on the brink. 30 minutes left. Egypt were 30 minutes from a quarterfinal. Then it unraveled. Christian Romero powered a header home in the 79th minute. Lionel Messi, 8 goals into this tournament, equalized in the 83rd to make it 2-2. And in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Enzo Fernandez met a Lautaro Martinez cross and headed brilliantly into the bottom corner. 3 goals in 13 minutes. Argentina through. Egypt out. It was a stunning comeback. What made it feel contested to Egypt, to neutrals, to much of the watching world, was not the comeback itself. It was what surrounded it. The disallowed Ziko goal that commentators said was outside VAR's remit, though technically, the laws of the game are written in a way that allows competing interpretations. The perceived penalty that was never reviewed. The string of yellow cards handed to Egyptian players during and after the fightback. Goalkeeper, midfielder, defender, as Egyptian protests mounted and their coach Hossam Hassan was himself booked for his animated objections, with Salah stepping in to try to calm the situation. The Egyptian Football Federation formally requested a FIFA investigation. Hassan went further, publicly alleging that there may have been external pressure on the officiating to keep Argentina in the tournament. That is a serious allegation to make. FIFA's refereeing chief rejected it. FIFA's response was exactly what you have come to expect. Quick, official, and closed. No independent review was announced. No specific public explanation of the VAR call or the penalty decision. No acknowledgement that the sequence of events at least warranted a transparent accounting. Just an institutional statement. No evidence of bias. Move along. You have been following this sport long enough to know the difference between an institution that takes accountability seriously and one that simply waits for the noise to die down. The response to Egypt's formal request, the request of a federation representing a nation in its first ever World Cup knockout match, was essentially a shrug dressed in official language. What makes that shrug so much harder to swallow is what FIFA did just days before. Valerian Balogun, the American striker, was shown a red card during the United States round of 16 match. Within days, the suspension was reversed. And the reason we know precisely how that reversal came about is because Donald Trump, the sitting president of the host nation, most publicly confirmed that he personally called FIFA President Gianni Infantino to request it. He said so out loud. The reversal happened. Think about what that actually means. The governing body that was too busy to offer Egypt a transparent explanation found time to act when a head of state, the head of state of the country hosting this tournament, picked up the phone. That is not an institutional image of neutrality. That is a picture of access and proximity to power. And when you place that picture alongside Egypt's unanswered questions, it is not a comfortable picture to look at. Same system, applied differently depending on who is asking. Step back from Atlanta for a moment and look at this tournament as a whole. The controversies around officiating have not been isolated. The opening match of this World Cup sent South Africa home with 9 men on the pitch after 3 red cards in a game against Mexico. Their head coach condemned at least one of those decisions as far too severe for what he actually saw on the pitch. Germany were eliminated in part because of a a VAR-awarded penalty that their coaching staff publicly called into question. FIFA later defended the call as consistent with pre-tournament guidance. Senegal suffered arguably the most painful exit of this round, a VAR-reviewed penalty, awarded deep in extra time, completing a Belgian comeback from 2-0 down. Across different matches, different teams, different referees, there is a recurring shape to these stories. The team with less institutional weight, less global commercial footprint, receives the sharper end of a close call. That could be coincidence match by match. Across a full tournament, it demands a better explanation than silence. This is not new territory for world football. In 2002, Spain's quarterfinal exit against South Korea left European football's administrators publicly furious. 2 legitimate Spanish goals were ruled out by decisions that multiple senior figures from UEFA and Europe's major clubs immediately condemned. FIFA held an inquiry. The referees involved were never used again. The inquiry found no evidence of deliberate wrongdoing. Football moved on, but the damage to the perception of that World Cup's refereeing never fully healed. Go back further. In 1986, Diego Maradona's hand sent England out of a World Cup in a moment so brazen it became mythology rather than scandal. The system of that era had no video review, no second opinion, no mechanism for catching what a billion viewers could see with their own eyes. FIFA spent the decade since selling us the promise that technology would close that accountability gap. VAR was that promise made concrete. What Atlanta showed us is that technology is only as neutral as the hands that choose when to activate it. The story does not end with Egypt. Argentina faced Switzerland in the quarterfinal, and the referee appointed for that match is João Pinheiro. Pinheiro carried his own controversy into this tournament. He oversaw a Champions League semi-final between Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain, in which a pivotal decision, a second yellow card for handball against PSG's Nuno Mendes, was reversed under circumstances that left Bayern's coaching staff baffled and publicly critical. The same referee, the same judgments about when to hold a decision and when to overturn it, now assigned to Argentina's next match. If Argentina advance again and officiating questions follow again, this tournament risks something that should keep FIFA's leadership awake at night: the permanent delegitimization of its referee appointments in the eyes of most of the global audience. That is not a crisis that closes with a press release or a statement from a refereeing chief. It is a credibility gap that compounds each time the institution refuses to answer the simplest questions publicly. Beyond 2026, the Balogan precedent is corrosive to everything FIFA claims about itself. If a host nation's leader can call the president of FIFA and have a match decision reversed, and we know this happened because the president of that host nation said so publicly, then what does sporting neutrality actually mean? What does it mean for the next host with a vested interest in a result? The 2022 cycle left FIFA defending its governance against accusations of political compromise in the awarding process. 2 weeks into 2026, the same questions are arriving from a different direction. So let's be honest with each other for a moment. Is it possible that every individual decision in Atlanta was, somewhere in the competing interpretations of a 200-page rulebook, technically defensible? Yes, those things happen in football. Marginal calls can be simultaneously defensible and profoundly unfair. But does technically defensible feel like an adequate response to the Egyptian Football Federation's formal request for answers after Trump-Infantino phone calls made in public? Is it possible that Hassan's allegations of outside pressure are driven entirely by the grief of a coach who just watched his team's historic run ended in devastating fashion? Also possible, great coaches have said things in the raw minutes after elimination that calmer reflection might have softened. But the Egyptian Federation's formal request for investigation was not a raw, emotional reaction. It was a considered institutional step. And FIFA's answer to a considered institutional step cannot just be, no, same system, applied differently. If that doesn't feel like accountability, it's because it isn't. After the full-time whistle at Atlanta Stadium, Mohamed Salah remained on the pitch for a long time, still in his Egypt kit, standing near the center circle, not moving toward the tunnel. Around him, Argentina celebrated. Cameras caught his face. Not tears, not anger, just the expression of someone processing something they haven't yet found words for. 35 years old. This was almost certainly his last World Cup. He had waved a flag all week. He had scored. He had tried to make peace between his head coach and a referee, and none of it had been enough. Whether that happened because Argentina were simply better in the moments that mattered, or because the margins that define those moments were not applied evenly, Egypt will be asking that question for a long time. The least FIFA could do is give them a proper answer. If this kind of deep accountability breakdown is why you come to this channel, you know the drill. Drop your take on the VAR calls in the comments below. Did FIFA owe Egypt more than a brief dismissal? I want to know where you stand. Give this video a like if it reached you through the algorithm and you want to see more of this work. And if you haven't subscribed yet, with the quarterfinals about to kick off and Pinheiro holding the whistle, now might be a good time.